and then will get out. If you have a fire in front of you, you're obviously just going to get out. You don't have time to wait for a passenger. So if there's a fire in front of your son, you'll get out my door. I've never had a fire in here, but it's important to talk about. There's the fire extinguisher. Speaking of fires, see these two tabs here? You just lift up on those, and then you grab the fire extinguisher and pull as hard as you can. It's not easy to get it out of there. You yank real hard and it'll come out. But otherwise it doesn't want to come out once you've got these tabs out of the way.
Yeah.
And then you pull the pin on the fire extinguisher, aim it at the base of the fire, and then just squeeze that handle until the fire is out. And that'll fill this whole cockpit full of dust and hard to breathe, but at least there's no fire. Okay, so that's the safety briefing in its entirety. I'm going to go through the checklist and walk you through what we need to do. So we've already done all of these checklists. Let's talk about the left wing. That's the one you did. Wing tie down and chocks removed. Did you do that?
Yep.
I remember you doing that. Main wheel brake, tire inflation, that was all good. Fuel quantity. I did that. Fuel tank cap. I did that. Fuel tank sumps. We actually did that on this wing.
Yeah.
Pitot tube. Check for blockage. You remember doing that?
Oh yeah, back there or right there.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. That was when I explained to you how the pitot tube worked. Fuel tank vent. I did that. See it sticking out right behind the wing strut back there. Stall warning. We talked about that, right? Landing and taxi lights. Inspect. We did that actually at the beginning, but you didn't see any cracks or anything as you went around. And then the aileron. Did you check it?
Yep.
And the flap. Did you check it? So even though we've done it, it's not done until you read it on the checklist. So now I've got these numbers here, and I'm going to be using those to make sure we don't skip any steps. So 1, pre-flight complete. Says we completed all that checklist. That's true. 2, passenger briefing complete. We already did that. 3, seats and seatbelts adjust and lock. So you're going to want to adjust your seat so that you can access the rudder pedals all the way front and back. And then the hard thing is going to be the brakes. I want to be able to apply both brakes. Pull this back just one click. Good?
Yep.
And the height there is good for you. You can see outside the windshield.
Yep.
So it's going to be a little different for you. We'll cover this before the engine starts. But if I put my fist here and point straight ahead, that tells me where the airplane is going to be. That's where I'm heading.
Okay.
So if I kind of picture a little spot right there on the windshield where I just pointed, that's where we're going to be going. So why don't you'll probably have to use more of a flat hand like this. Point straight ahead. And you should be pointing about at the horizon. Actually, we're pointing because of the weight in the back. No offense. Because of the weight in the back, we're actually pitched up quite a bit. So you're pointing up above the horizon. And you should be pointing, I guess, about just to the left of that kind of rusty tin shed there.
Okay. So like right there.
Yeah. So you've actually got a little...
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
Flea spot or something there. That's going to be what you're going to use. So you're going to keep the horizon going right through that little flea spot, and that means that we're going to be in level flight. And if I tell you, say, to go fly at a mountain, I'll point to a mountain or something and have you fly toward it. You're just going to keep turning until that little flea spot is sitting right on that mountain, and then you straighten us out.
Could you tell it's level by here in this instrument?
You can use instruments, and it's going to be important for you to learn instruments, but the most important thing to learn as a beginning pilot is how to fly looking outside the airplane. It's very easy to get sucked into the instruments, and the instruments are important. I'll show you how to cross-check your instruments, but you're basically going to want to be able to tell where the plane's going by looking outside the airplane. So that's what that little spot's for. And so if you look down, say, at the instruments, and you look up, and now the spot's below the horizon, you know something's changed. Or if the spot's now above the horizon, you know something's changed, and you're going to fix it. And things change real fast in an airplane. That's why we don't want to be looking inside any more than we have to. Circuit breakers. Okay, so brakes are set. That means this is sticking out like this. Good. Circuit breakers are in. So just rub your fingers across these circuit breakers and make sure there's not one sticking out.
Yep.
All of them. Get another set over here.
I didn't see those. Yeah, those are good.
Good. And the electrical equipment except beacon is off, so that's all these switches should be down except that one right there on the end.
Beacon, all of them are down.
Yeah, and it's real easy to check if you just rub your fingers over them. 6, oh, just did that. 7, avionics bus 1 and 2 off. That's the white switch. Make sure they're both down.
Yep.
8, fuel selectors on both. That's this. And both means it's pointing straight ahead. 9, fuel shutoff valve is on. That's this. So if we had a fire in the engine or something, we could just pull this and that would stop all the fuel flow to the engine.
Okay.
But obviously you don't want to do that while you're flying. 10, mixture idle cutoff. So that means that this red knob is all the way back. 11, propeller area visually check clear, no call out. Now if this were the first flight of the day, we'd have to test the standby battery, but instead we can just arm it. So that top switch there, just flip it straight up.
Right.
And then we'll sit here for a second. Notice the instruments are coming up. It's a little computer, so it's gonna boot just like your computer at home.
Yep.
Once it's all booted up, then we can continue with the check. So the engine indicating system, no red X's. This bar right here is the engine indicating system. Make sure there's no red X's there. Good. M bus volts, oh sorry, bus E volts is 24 volts. So see the E there?
24.3.
Good. And the M bus volts needs to be 1.5 volts or less.
So this one's at 0.1.
Perfect. And then the S amps, so that's the next line here, should be discharging, should have a negative number there.
Negative 3.1.
Perfect. Standby battery annunciator, all of the annunciators are going to be right here. So there should be one that says standby battery.
Yep.
Is on. So now we can turn the master switch on. That's the red switch. Go ahead and flip it up.
Wait.
The big red switch,
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Underneath the last switch we looked at.
On?
Yep. Both switches, all the way up. Good job. Beacon is on. Make sure that switch is flipped in the up position.
Yep.
Priming. So I'll do the priming steps here. We're just gonna make sure that there's fuel for the engine so it can start. So see the little fuel flow graph there? As soon as it stabilizes, then I just pull the mixture back and the throttle back. So that takes us down to 25, throttle open 1/4 inch. Now, any questions? I'm about to start the engine, and that's when our time starts. So any questions that you have, now's the time to go over them. I'll pretty much just kind of take over from here until we're up in the air.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, here we go. Oh, I will say one more thing before. So I'm going to yell clear so that anybody that might be walking out there knows not to walk in front of the propeller because it's about to be spinning and it'll take body parts off very, very quickly. So we're always very careful around propellers when we're on the ramp. Just set that there. Clip! Take this, turn the electronic ignition on. I'm holding my foot on the brakes so we don't start rolling forward. Let me have you pull the yoke back just